Welcome back to the program once again. This is the campaign edition of Choice 2017. President Uhuru Kenyatta, his deputy William Ruto are now addressing their supporters in Baringo. We're going to tell you what they're going to talk about there, what they are currently talking about there. But for now, let's listen in to one of the NASA principals, that is Moses Wetangula, and he had something to say about the NCIC.
Meona ameanza kuprofile nchi yetu na ameweka counties sanasa where we are strong. He's calling them flashpoints, hotspots, areas where there's likely to be trouble. Ile wanataka kufanya ni siku ya kura, watume askari wengi huko na majeshi to frighten people from voting. We are not going to accept this, Mr. Kaparo.
1 week before the voting day, don't move away from where you registered as a voter.
Those are NASA leaders speaking. They are now speaking about frustrations. It seems NASA also frustrated because they're saying NCIC, is busy pinpointing areas perceived to be NASA strongholds as hotspots. Kamoga State.
It's a political gimmick. It is clear there's some places where there might be, it's not to say that there will be, there might be what? Challenges.
So coincidentally, they are all NASA?
No, they're not all NASA. Naivasha is not. let's
most of them.
Let's be realistic.
Yes.
Some of these people are crying wolf too much. they need to. Now, if the NCIC does not do its work and send some warnings that there could be trouble, they're not saying there will be trouble, but there could be what? Now, one of the differences we have between 2017 and 2007 is that maybe the warnings in 2007 were not taken as seriously as they should have been. Maybe. I think this time people are learning. They should be a little more careful. In 2007, we had that misfortune of people being flushed out of their homes before the voting day. So they voted in makeshift voting booths. That happened.
Of course, that can be avoided if we have proper system in place.
So if there are indications that something like that, it's good to announce it. Now, those areas that have been mentioned, Kiambu has been mentioned there. So it's up to the people, the authorities, the people involved, to take steps to ensure that things do not go wrong. That's all. So I think Weta is over-enthusiastic.
I think your point is home. Obidi, is it coincidental or what? Because most of these places...
mentioning any place as a potential place for violence is the first mistake. It was unnecessary. If the security forces should know this as their own security secret, that we need to have enough forces to be there in Uasin Gishu, we need to have some way, maybe where near Kibera. But when you mention it, you are creating panic in those places. You are asking those who live in those places, remove your children and wives and take them to safer places before the election day arrives. This was purely intended to destabilize those who live in those places who don't belong there. So when he says Naivasha is not NASA stronghold, Naivasha has very many people who have migrated from Western Kenya to work in the flower farms. They are telling them, do you remember what happened in 2007? Pack your children and wives and send them back there because this is a flashpoint. This is what they are doing. It doesn't have to be really a NASA stronghold. It has to be a place where there are immigrants from Western Kenya. And when they profile them as flashpoints, places where there will be war, places where there will be fights, then they are sending a signal that you need to leave this place before the election day.
Of course, we're going to definitely avoid these fights if we have proper system in place.
So,
now, Jared,
so the mistake is just the announcement.
Jared, do you agree with the NASA principles there that most of these areas that have been mentioned by NCIC as potential hotspots are mostly NASA strongholds?
Politics aside a bit, it is the work of the CID to look at these areas and come up with measures on how to prevent or to protect those who are living there. As per the Constitution, everyone has got the right to live everywhere and anywhere in this country. Having said that, like what is happening in Lamu, it's all about chasing some of the guys so that they don't vote. That's basically what it is. You know, the problem is that people fear talking about these issues, you know, and we ought to speak about them. Like what's happening now in Lamu is basically that. You know, Naivasha, you know, was in Gishu. The governor himself came out and said, if you can't be asked, then you'll have to leave this place. And that's not a NASA place. The truth, Yusuf, is that these issues are happening both in NASA and the Jubilee strongholds. And some of the people in NASA strongholds are warning those that they think are Jubilee to move away from where they live. And those who are in Jubilee also warning other people that they think are NASA to leave. That's basically what is happening in this country. And so long as we keep quiet and we stop talking on them, then we are going to lose this country. Everyone has got a right to live anywhere and everywhere to do anything that they want. What you've heard Wetangula talking about is taking place in both sides of the divide.
Yeah. Let's not lose focus. You react to that already. Let's not lose focus on the campaign trail today. And we're getting reports. As Victor Gal, of course, is working for us there in Baringo as far as that rally is concerned. But something interesting came up from that rally. The president has been quoted as having said that IEBC should not be frustrated. Of course, this coming after the court's ruling.
I don't think it is IEBC which is being frustrated. It is Jubilee which is being frustrated. I do not see any connection of Jubilee with IEBC, that they should every other time talk on behalf of IEBC. IEBC is a fully fledged body with every organ that can talk for themselves. But for the president to come out and warn the courts, that is very unfortunate. I think we are going back to the Hitler Germany. You know, Hitler used to believe, deny people their rights, freedoms, and privileges so that you can control them. Why would he want the courts are supposed to be independent and can make decisions that if you don't agree with, all you need to do is appeal. And when he's
that
saying,
is what they're planning to do.
And when he's saying IEBC is being frustrated, remember we are still remaining with 30 days to the general election. That is enough time to print ballot papers for the president. In any case, should we have a runoff in Kenya after the elections, we will still print those ballot papers in less than 30 days as the law requires and bring them and distribute it and we vote. So printing is something that takes place in days. 1 week is enough to print ballot papers and distribute them.
Prof, you react to that, but first let's just listen into that ruling from the Court of Appeal at the Milimani Law Courts, where a three-judge bench threw the presidential election into new spin on Friday. This after the judges quashed the presidential ballot printing tender ordered to the Dubai firm, that is Al Ghurair, citing lack of public participation. Now the judges have ordered the IEBC to start the tender afresh in order to deliver a credible election. Now the IEBC has vowed rather to appeal the decision. Let's listen in.
The Commission shall hold a meeting with all presidential candidates on the 10th of July 2017 at 11 a.m. 2, the Commission shall invite the public to submit memoranda on procurement of presidential ballot papers to reach us by 11th of July 2017 by 5 p.m. And this will be followed by public hearings on the 12th of July 2017. 3, the Commission shall appeal to the High Court decision on public participation in procurement processes.
This is Wafula Chebukati, there, the IEBC chairman. Now, Prof, I'll give you time, of course, to react to what the president said in Baringo today. But for now, IEBC is saying they're going to appeal the court ruling. They're going to meet presidential candidates by tomorrow. And do you think this will go on and affect the election timelines that we already have?
No, it will not affect the timelines.
No.
And you can see the commission is complying with an order they don't like. Yeah? So when they say, okay, because the logic of the court was public participation.
Yes.
Now when you look at it, it sounds funny. Because they imply that there was public participation for the lower ballot, but not. So you say, wait a minute, weren't they the same thing? Anyway, but that's not the issue. The issue is they are going on with the other ballots. They have started a process of meeting the court order by calling all these stakeholders, whether it's tomorrow or the day after.
But time is ticking.
Yeah, but the printing, once they agree on these things, it can be, with digital age, it can be done. So I think they are complying with the process, with the court order, that do start afresh in order to appear as if there is no problem. They still appeal because the IEBC believe that the judgment was wrong. And that's its right to decide that, to appeal against a judgment which is, in their view, improper and a kind of hamstringing the IEBC in its operations. And you can see, yes, it does feel frustrated that it's a carefully timed thing. Remember the first time the whole thing was thrown out was not because they had not followed the process, but because there was no commission. You know, so when you follow the whole thing, it's murky. Yeah.
Yeah. For now,
So I think they are doing the right thing. Make the appeal. Should the higher court agree with them, it's okay. Should the higher court not agree with them, they still have some time to go. And I think it can be done. We give them credit.
I don't know where that time will come from.
Let me add one small thing.
Yes. Briefly.
The IEBC, when it appealed the vote tallying, the announcement or declaration, the declaration thing, there were threats to the IEBC. There were threats to the court themselves from ODM NASA. And they kept on saying, should the courts, should IEBC, we shall not agree. Those were threats. Now, when that happens, unfortunately, it made the ODM appear as if it is succeeding in forcing its way. Whether that is the case or not, the issue.
But we thought the judiciary is independent.
Well, I'm agreeing with the judiciary, but it made the judiciary appear as if it was complying with the demands of ODM, because the ODM leadership had threatened that it would not accept any other kind of ruling. That's where the tragedy is.
Let me bring Jarim here, because one of course, you're going to participate in the elections. Yeah. Are you worried that maybe you might end up changing the election date? I don't know how practical that is, but with the current situation, IEBC is saying they're going to appeal. They're going to meet presidential candidates. So do you think this timeline, we're only 29 days away from the general election, are you worried that the election date might be changed?
I don't think so. The election date is cast in stone. It will not be changed. Election is going to take place on 8th. But having said that, I think both the political divides must respect the institutions. The threats have come from both sides, and now we are hearing the president saying, talking to the judiciary, or threatening the judiciary that they must be doing this, or the IEBC must be doing this. Then where is the independence issue? We ought to respect our institutions.
The president is also, just like you, is worried about the election date. Actually, the next statement he was saying that they're not going to change the election date already.
First of all, why should anyone be worried about the election date? In fact, as I sit here, and I hear IEBC saying they are going to appeal, I wonder what irreparable damage they would suffer if they just obeyed the court's decision as it was. They look for another printing firm to print the ballot papers for the president. More so, the prof said that was this case of public participation only applicable to the presidential vote and not the other votes. Remember, the case that was before court was the presidential. The court can't rule on what is not before them. So that's why they ruled on this that was before them. Even the other questions they were raising about Al Ghurair being in bed with the president and such things, that was just for the president. There was no MP or senator anywhere who had a problem with that issue. But what beats me is what irreparable damage does IEBC or Jubilee have to suffer if we got a new acceptable printer to print the ballot papers for the president. Then we go to the elections happy, all of us.
Once again, the key issue here, according to IEBC, is time.
Yeah, this time. Let me make a bit of a correction there, you see. Jubilee is not suffering anything. Okay? This is an IEBC issue. And the IEBC has a right to seek proper justice. And the appeal is proper. Now, it's up whether it's the Supreme Court to sit and say it agrees with the lower court or it does not agree, that must be pronounced for clarity in the future. Not just this thing here. It's a clarity thing. So if the lower court was wrong and the Supreme Court pronounces itself that way, then let that be done quickly. If the lower court was right, I don't know which way the court would decide. Whichever way, because we are now saying the ultimate authority on interpreting laws and constitutional provision and things should pronounce its own on this side, so that we do not have this kind of repeat at another time. And that's how it is. And so the IEBC is right. And in fact, it is reparable damage if there is no clarity on this matter. Now,
because NASA also on record having said that they're going to appeal.
Once it is pronounced, then we can move on. The printing of the ballot, I don't think is a big issue.
No.
Once they agree on who is to print, once the whole thing is done. But that point must be clarified for the entire country, for the IEBC, for the judiciary itself, for anyone who is interested in this thing. We cannot leave it hanging in the air.
So time is not an excuse?
Time is not an excuse, given that IEBC itself had said that presidential ballots are supposed to be printed as from 18th of July. No. So it is not about time is not an issue. But having said that, again, it will be important that, yes, they have got all the rights to appeal, yeah, and as Prof saying, so that we can have clarity on what really need to be done. Yeah. But remember, neither Jubilee nor NASA did not go to court. It is one of the presidential candidates, Dr. Court, who went to court in that he was not consulted when, as far as presidential ballots were concerned. That was the case. On the issue of Agurai going to bed with the government was thrown out. Yeah. With Jubilee was thrown out. So we ought need to to understand this and tell our viewers the truth. But it is the right of IEBC to go to court so that we can have a credible, verifiable, just and peaceful election.
Of course, we have a lot to talk about within this program, but we do one final comment on the IEBC issue.
This IEBC thing, I don't think they need to go to appeal. If I were in court and I've been sued, that the court rules that I own something, and they go and say, actually, Ovidi, you own it, the reason is what is different. I don't have to appeal, I have got what I wanted. IEBC is not going to suffer any irreparable damage on this thing. But as we were talking about Jubilee and IEBC, and he said that Jubilee is not a party to this thing, I know it is not a party, but they seem to make loudest noise about these accusations against IEBC more than IEBC itself. This is where we have the problem.
Yeah.
This is where we have the problem.
As far as the election preparedness is concerned, of course, we've lost our Interior Cabinet Secretary yesterday. Now the demise of Interior CS, Joseph Nkaissery, and post-mortem is expected now to be done tomorrow. The delay in carrying out the post-mortem ritual has been necessitated by one of his children, who is expected to arrive in the country tomorrow. Now, the late Nkaissery died Friday night. Let's now link up with our reporter Elvis Kosgei, who is in the streets of Eldoret. Elvis is going to join me shortly, but for now, let's listen into what the President had to say during his nation address yesterday from State House.
A friend, a colleague, whom as late as yesterday, we spent a good part of the day praying together for peace for this country.
He was trying to do his best. I've always told him that don't overreach yourself in terms of this. There is always life after this service. And
let's now link up with our reporter Elvis Kosgei, all the way from the City of Champions, that is Eldoret. Now, Elvis, good afternoon.
Good afternoon, Yusuf Ibrahim, there in studio and indeed in the County of Champions. Remember yesterday, North Rift leaders sent their message of condolence to the family of the late Joseph Kasaine Nkaissery, who passed on just the other day. And today I'm here in the streets just to hear from residents of Uasin Gishu. Labda hisia zako ni zipi kuhusiana na kifo cha ghafla cha mwenda zake Nkaissery?
Actually, it was a great shock. And we are still perplexed and perturbed by the sudden demise of our able CS. And we believe the government will still give us the explanation into this. But for now, we just want to say pole sana kwa familia ya Nkaissery na kwa Wakenya wote. Asanteni sana. As we head to these elections, let's be peaceful. Mambo na vita tuwache. Ni mambo ya kitambo sana. Asanteni sana.
Ndio. Vile vile tusikie kutoka kwako bwana.
Nasema kwa Nkaissery, poleni sana. Tuko Eldoret, tunaombeleza, hata sisi wa Kenya tunaombeleza sana.
Yeah, it was with shock and disbelief that we lost a great man by the name of Nkaissery. But I know the grace is so sufficient that God will sustain us even as we go through these elections. So let's be peaceful and know that with courage, the great leader that has been put in place shall make us go through the elections. Otherwise, for the family of Nkaissery, we say God's grace shall be sufficient. Okay. Yep.
Yeah, we were really saddened as a nation, and as Uasin Gishu County, we were really saddened by the demise of Honorable Nkaissery, and we wish to send a message of condolence to the family, the president, and the nation as a whole. That poleni to the family and the nation. God will take control. Let God take control of everything. Thank you.
Tusikie kutoka kwako bwana.
Mimi kama mkaaji wa Eldoret nataka nitoe rambirambi zangu kwa familia ya Nkaissery. Kwa vile mnajua Nkaissery amefanyia nchi yetu kazi ya maana sana. Tunatoa pole zetu kama wakaaji wa Eldoret. Pole sana. Mungu awafariji na Mungu ailinde familia ya Nkaissery. Asanteni.
Labda tusikie kutoka kwa dada pia.
Yeah, it was so sudden. Actually, we didn't expect. We are all shocked. But my fellow Kenyans, I wanna say poleni sana kwa familia na pia kwa nchi mzima as a whole. Poleni sana. May the Lord give you peace. Okay.
Tusikie kutoka kwa Mkenya wa mwisho.
I was in a disbelief when I heard of Nkaissery's pass out, and I want to say that I believe that the family will have peace at this particular time when we are going in an election. We are asking all Kenyans to maintain peace, and we believe that God loves this country, God loves Kenyans, and as though the family of Nkaissery will ask you that you maintain peace because God is going to favor you, God is going to fight for you, God is going to open your ways. It is not the end of life. Kenya must continue. We must continue as Kenyans in one love and in peace. God bless you.
Okay. Many thanks, Yusuf Ibrahim. You've heard from section of Uasin Gishu County residents. And of course, you're waiting tomorrow where President Uhuru Kenyatta will be heading to Turkana County to intensify the Jubilee campaigns.
Many thanks, Elvis, for that. That is Elvis Kosgei coming to us all the way from Eldoret, where the residents there are still mourning the death of Interior Cabinet Secretary Joseph Nkaissery, who passed on yesterday morning. Now, Prof, I think we've lost him when he was really needed.
Yes.
We're just a few days away from the elections.
One thing about the general, he was very clear that as long as he is in that docket, there will be no fighting in the country. That was very clear. He was a dedicated man who knew the difference between political play and national interest. There are not many people who know that difference. And he made effort to make that distinction, that when it's ordinary political things, these are things you do this. When it's the national interest and national security, no discussions. This is what has to be done. He was very clear on those things. Actually, he, as Minister for Internal Security, he just followed another former Minister for Internal Security, Gigi Kariuki. And because Gigi Kariuki is being buried next week. But they were very good friends, actually. Interesting. Gigi Kariuki and Nkaissery were very good friends, and they would compare notes. So he's a man with focus, and surely the country will miss him. His forcefulness and the ability to do the right thing, irrespective of what. So it is a big blow. I knew him as a person. And when we meet, we discuss. He used to call me Ndugu, things like that, and very interested in ideas. So when I heard about it, it hit me because of that. So we know he died, not of his choice. So we wait for the post-mortem to tell us.
Yeah, and that's something that might be done tomorrow.
And it should be made public.
Yeah.
Whatever it is, it should be made public so that there's no room for speculation. We want to know what happened.
He's one of the few cabinet secretaries who are not very active politically speaking. He was a politician once, he was an ODM member, and NASA, of course, feel like they're also bereaved. Give credit to him. It was somebody who wasn't very active in the rallies, or was he?
You know, Nkaissery is an army general. What that tells you is somebody who gives orders. He's used to orders, nothing else, no in-betweens. But I want you to take note of some points about Nkaissery's death. In the countdown to 2013 general election, another internal security minister died, of course, suddenly and mysteriously. And even the subsequent court cases and inquiries, people were not very satisfied. Nkaissery has also died at a time when we are closely approaching the general election. He also happens to be a very no-nonsense internal security minister, a guy who says things as he thinks they are, whether you agree with it or not. Nkaissery died after he had left the Bomas of Kenya, a place where the tallying for the ballots will be done for the president. And Nkaissery died very suddenly. As we are sitting here, we are not exactly very certain of the cause of death until the post-mortem is done. However, already a committee has been formed for his burial. Somebody has already taken his position. Those are issues that ensure that we insist on proper inquiry into the death of Nkaissery.
Of course, we'll wait for the investigation to be exhausted there. Jeremy will react to that, but for now, we'll take a very short break. Remember, President Uhuru Kenyatta is addressing his supporters in Baringo. He is together with the Deputy President William Ruto, the KANU leader there, Gideon Moi. They're all trying to woo voters. They're trying to, make Baringo people, that is people from the Baringo County, to support the Jubilee government. And on the other hand, NASA leader Raila Odinga, he had just finished about an hour ago his rally at Shimolatewa. Right now he's in Kilifi, and our reporters are still there, and they're going to make sure you get those live pictures. But we'll take a break. When we come back, we're going to talk about Baringo politics. Stay tuned for that.